Hi, welcome to the TU Sports Extra Podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined by Kelly Hines and one of her mini cats. Kelly, introduce your cat.
This is Spot. She's
Hi,
a
Spot.
adoption. Look how cute she is.
She's total cute. Hopefully you're watching the video version and you can see how cute Spot is. But there we go. And we just started this, so who knows which other cats might make an appearance later. So
we don't know.
All right, so it's Thursday, March 9th. A whole lot of basketball to get into. What a great time of year this is. So awesome.
Not at all busy or hectic.
Yeah, it's easy. So the TU men play at 6 o'clock tonight. We're filming this on Thursday about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So TU has yet to play. Your thoughts on that game? Any chance TU has lost to Wichita State twice this year? One game was pretty close. Any chance they pull up the
both games were fairly close by TU standards this season? They didn't lose by 30 like some of the games. I actually think that this is the most like of all of the potential first round opponents, Wichita State is the most favorable matchup for Tulsa. But obviously you still have I expect they'll still have some guys out. So it's not, if they were at full strength, I would maybe feel a little bit better about this game for them. But I think it's going to be tough. But like Eric Kunkel said the other day, we're 0-0, just like everybody else. All the things that coaches say that some teams can really latch onto that, and other teams, this has obviously been a difficult year. You just don't know how much fight they have left in them at this point. They've had some games when they put out a lot of effort and it didn't go their way. They've had games when they didn't put out much effort at all and it didn't go their way. This team, I don't know what to expect at this point, but I do think that this matchup, it could definitely be worse. Do you mind? It could be worse. And then if you win this game, then the second round, the next opponent would be Tulane, which is the only team that Tulsa has beaten in the American. So I mean, honestly, it's in terms of all of that, it's not the worst possible draw. So, but it's going to be tough. They've lost 11 games in a row and they've been shorthanded for a lot of those games. So, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see just what they put out there on the floor.
Yeah, that'll be telling. All right, let's go to while your cat sort of attacks you there.
In a loving way.
In a loving way, sure, of course. He just wants his camera time. I get it. Sorry, no offense. All right, let's talk about Kevin Wilson losing 2 assistants before even the spring game. I thought that was really unusual, and you thought it wasn't quite as unusual. Why don't you put that in perspective for us?
I just know that these things, it's still kind of fluid, even though a lot of teams have already started spring practice, but there's still movement at the NFL level, and that affects the college level. I just feel like stuff hasn't. It's now getting played out, deeper into the spring. I'm going to put you down. Because of the NFL season and the effect that has. So I think we're not really used to seeing that with our teams at this late stage, but it does happen. It's kind of unfortunate when it happens to you twice, but what I don't really have a good feel for, because this is a different coaching staff, is what is the contract situation? Did these guys have contracts that they hadn't signed yet with TU? Obviously, money is going to be a big factor for some of these guys. Like with Matt Guerreri, it was, I'm told it was more about, the best fit for his family as, a young child, and, the things related to geography. It was going to be better to be closer to his wife's family and to his, those things. But obviously Power 5 opportunities, when guys have those as an option, they're probably going to want to take those. But it is obviously unusual when it happens to you twice. So I don't really have a good feel for what the situation is. And I don't think it's any sort of indictment on Kevin or on his program or any of that. I don't think that they got here and they're like, oh gosh, this is terrible. I got to get out of here. What's available? I think it was just, especially with Matt Guerrieri, it was more about, he's a coach on the rise, and they probably weren't going to be able to hold on to him for very long if he had any amount of success. And so he, had that other opportunity come up. And I think it was unfortunate, the timing of it for TU. I think they've recovered well from the special teams coordinator, taking another job. They brought in a young guy who's on the rise also. So that has been resolved. Still looking for a defensive coordinator. You have to think that's going to be resolved really soon because spring ball is just around the corner. So I don't know what to think about all of that. And I don't know that we'll ever really know. Or maybe actually we'll have a slightly better feel for things behind the scenes, but I don't have that yet with this staff.
When does spring football start?
Well, they're trying to hire a defensive coordinator before spring football starts.
Right.
We're probably a couple weeks away. They're going to start most likely the week after spring break. So but it may not be like that Monday. It may not be like right off the bat because they want to have their coordinator in place and, figure some things out before they just run out there for their first spring practice. So, but I mean, I think the calendar allows for that a little bit. You don't have to start in February or early March. Like you can work your way through April if you need to. So, and I expect that's what TU will do.
You're an AP voter. You have been for a couple of years, right?
I have a lot of thoughts on being an AP voter. I will say when I think the last ballot is I think it's due this next Monday, this coming Monday. When I'm done with that for the year, that is just such a sense of relief because it is not my favorite thing to do. I do take it very seriously, probably too seriously, and is very time consuming. And it's really a challenge to, obviously you're not watching all of the games. It's not possible to watch all of the basketball games. And when you're done with it, some people might think, I never want to do this again. But then, I'm not saying that's me, I'm just saying some people out there. But then when they ask you to do it the next season, you're like, sure, I could do that again. And then as you're doing it, you're like, I never want to do this again. I mean, some people might, not necessarily me. Yeah, I am an AP voter. And I feel like there should be some sort of medal or something for that.
So, we're a couple days from Selection Sunday. What can you just kind of give us, some teams you've liked this year, you're keeping an eye out on? Maybe a team you're excited to see in the tournament. Just throw some teams at us here.
I really like Houston a lot. I think that this has been set up for Houston to have a special season, not just because of their personnel, but because the Final Four is in Houston. That would be very cool to see. And obviously being a team in the American, a program that I've seen up close quite a bit over the last few years. Obviously, we're very well aware of Kelvin Sampson and his journey. I would love to see him at least make it to the Final Four again. I would love to see that. So that's a team that I've had my eye on all season. As much as I haven't always really I don't know how to say that. As much of an interesting person Mick Cronin is, I find myself intrigued by UCLA a lot. I'll be interested to see if they get that #1 seed. It was kind of funny how Mick Cronin the other day claimed to not know who Joe Lunardi was, and that was exceptionally classic. Don't believe that at all. And, just interested to see what happens with our in-state teams. Oklahoma State, I feel like has made a case, has just been kind of up and down, and who knows what the committee will do with a team like that if they don't have another win. So, I don't know. I really like Purdue. That's another program that I really like. Literally anyone in the Big 12. I feel like has a chance because that's obviously the best conference in the country. I don't know. There are a lot of I feel like top 10 is just loaded with teams. But even from there, there's another few, I don't know, 5 or 6 teams that I could see being right there at the end.
So, okay, as a voter, has there been any team maybe this year that you have maybe consistently voted higher than what they've landed at? Like, is there a team that maybe you like that's kind of been a little under the radar, or maybe other voters haven't been quite as big of fans of, but that you really like?
I've been pretty high on UConn all season, and I mean, I think that's extremely deserved. And just feel like the talent that they have, and just being a really competitive, pretty complete team, that's been one that I think I've probably consistently voted higher. But not really. I try to stay, I think I stay pretty closely in line. There were a few weeks when I had Houston at 1, when, other people may have had Alabama or Purdue. I've been high on that team. I mean, the fact that Houston beat ORU by like 40 points, which I'm not sure that's really like indicative of those teams or anything, but Houston is a very dangerous, very complete team. And I just feel like that's one that, really since the start of the season, I've felt like they would have a chance at the end.
So you're also kind of pulling, I was going to say double duty, Kelly, but we might call it triple duty or something. You're going to be picking up.
Some people might say that. Some might. You can. I'll let you say that.
You'll let me say that?
Yeah.
You're going to be covering ORU throughout the duration of the tournament. They officially punched their ticket a couple days ago. You were watching that game on TV. This is a tough question now because we don't know their draw, but just what would you say in general is ORU's chances in the tournament this year?
It's so much of it now comes down to matchups, and it really is going to depend on that matchup, because you look at, St. Thomas, for example. That was a team that ORU, I wouldn't say struggled with in the semifinals, but really had to play well down the stretch to win that game. St. Thomas was a difficult matchup for ORU because they had 5 guys who were athletic and could shoot the 3, and just had a lot of versatility. But a lot of teams are going to be a good matchup for ORU, and they're not going to have that same struggle with. And St. Thomas wasn't even one of the better teams in the Summit League, but had some different things that were problematic for ORU. So I think it just depends on that. I do like this ORU team a lot. It's a team that is, to me, a lot different from the one 2 years ago, but could be almost more problematic. It just really depends on who they play. But, the team 2 years ago, I know Paul Mills thought that was a team that would win multiple games in the tournament, and obviously did. I didn't see that with that team, but obviously he knew his team a little bit better than I did. This is a team that I'm like, I could see them winning games in the tournament if they get the right draw. So I just can't wait to see what that's going to be, because there are a lot of teams that I've seen across the country that I'm like, oh, you could beat them. They could beat them. They could win that game. It just really depends on who they get.
Sure.
But there's a ton of potential with this team. I mean, adding Connor Vanover, obviously when you have a 7'5" guy, that makes you a difficult team to deal with. He had 6 blocks the other night, and it's not just his size, it's what he does with his size. I think he has that component on defense that other teams have to really try to figure out, how to deal with, because most teams don't have to go up against someone that tall. So, obviously we can talk about Max Asmus and everything he brings to the table, but there's so many pieces on this team that make them pretty complete. And obviously they are very good at shooting the 3. They feed off each other very well. They are able to go on these runs that provide separation, or if they're having a down moment, they overcome that with a 10-0 run, and then suddenly they're in firm control. They just have a lot of different pieces that play really well together, and I think that they're exceptionally dangerous, especially once you get to March, which is apparently the month that we're in, so it works out well.
It works out well. So I'm always fascinated to hear national pundits, if you will, talk about our local teams, because it's fascinating to hear the national perception of teams that we see and read about and watch every day. I've heard multiple guys, I'm not sure, I've mentioned the names if I remember, but I don't, but I've heard multiple people say in sort of handicapping the tournament that this team is better than the Sweet 16 team. Do you agree with that? You kind of, just from hearing your explanation, it seems like you're leaning that way.
I feel like it's a more dangerous team because of those pieces, because you could have a quiet night from one of your role players, and they have quite a few on this team, and then it just seems like someone else has a really game, like Patrick Mwamba coming off the bench and scoring 20 points when he was dealing with an ankle injury. And his story is kind of incredible, how he wound up at ORU and just kind of the person he is. And that's a guy who at times is overshadowed because they have other pieces. I mean, their depth is pretty incredible, and the fact that they're still able, they have one of the best guards in the country, and yet they're still able to have like really balanced scoring. I mean, like I'm not used to a team like this that has this many weapons, and you're okay with some guys not having their best night, because it's like, okay, it's not your night. Here's another guy over here. Here are actually like 5 other guys. And you saw that at the beginning of that championship game when ORU was able to really just get going from the start. And I think all 5 starters scored in like the first 3 minutes. They brought in a couple more guys off the bench. They both scored in the next 2 minutes. Like you're getting production from a lot of different guys. So this isn't like it was 2 years ago when it was the Max Asmus, Kevin O'Banner show, and they were the nation's top scoring duo, and Max led the country in points. And this is not that team. This is a team that Max is going to get his 20 points, like without a doubt. And he's going to have the ability to score 20 points and a half in a flurry. But this team is more than him. And I think that's when you're starting to get, more attention because you don't have to rely on, one guy or 2 guys. Like this is a team that has a lot of options.
Do you think Paul Mills could be a candidate for Texas Tech?
I think that'd be a really good fit for him. I think that's definitely someone they should consider. It's just, I think that he's done an incredible job with this program, and I don't think anyone could blame him for moving on or doing what's right for him or looking at other options, any of those things. I just think that he's a really good coach, and the way that he's able to get the most out of his players. I just think that he has a really good dynamic with them. So I think that he's someone that years down the road, we're going to look back at this time at ORU as being special, and obviously it has been. But I feel like he's going to get he's going to have opportunities like at any point. But I think that would be a really a good place for him.
Yep. All right. Anything else on your mind, or shall we end it there?
I think that's good.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody checking us out. You can download us for free on Google, Apple, or Spotify. Kelly and I usually come at you once a week. Today it's Thursday, but next week, who knows? Could be any day of the week. We might just surprise people. So there you have it. All right, Kelly, appreciate the knowledge as always. We'll talk later.
All right. Sounds good.